The most popular savings benchmark in America says you should have 1 times your salary saved by 30. The median American at 30 has about $28,000 to their name. That's not 1 times salary. That's not even close. And here's the thing. If you've ever Googled how much should I have saved by my age, you've probably seen one of those clean little charts. Salary times 2 by 35 times 6 by 50. They look so reasonable, so achievable, until you compare them to what people actually have and realize the gap isn't a crack, it's a canyon. But here's what nobody tells you. The gap doesn't open evenly. There's a specific decade where most people fall permanently behind, and it's probably not the one you'd guess. By the end of this video, you'll know the real numbers at every age, not the aspirational ones, the honest ones, where the gap actually opens, and the 3 quiet decisions that determine which side of it you land on. Okay, so let's talk about where these benchmarks actually come from. The most cited one is from Fidelity. They say 1 times your salary by 30, 3 times by 40, 6 times by 50, 10 times by 67. Sounds clean? Sounds doable. And it's based on a model that assumes you start saving at 25, consistently put away 15% of your income, invest in a balanced portfolio, and never touch it. Which, sure, that's also a model that assumes you don't have student loans, don't get laid off, don't have kids, and don't live in a city where rent costs more than a mortgage payment in 2005. The model isn't wrong exactly. It's just describing a person who doesn't exist. Meanwhile, the Federal Reserve's Survey of Consumer Finances gives us the actual numbers, and the actual numbers are humbling. The median net worth for Americans under 35 is roughly $39,000. For 35 to 44, it jumps to about $135,000. For 45 to 54, roughly $247,000. These aren't bad people making bad choices. This is what normal looks like in an economy where under 25 households literally spend more than they earn. About $30,000 in income versus over $30,000 in expenses, according to BLS data. You can't save what doesn't exist. In your 20s, the benchmark says you should reach 1 times your salary by 30. If you're earning the median for your age group, somewhere around 40 to 50,000, that means 50 grand saved. The reality? Most people in their 20s have a net worth that's either barely positive or literally negative thanks to student debt. And the spending data backs this up. BLS numbers show that under 25 households are the only age group in America that spends more than it earns. Every other age group at least breaks even. Not this one. So when someone tells you to have 50,000 saved by 30, what they're really saying is, figure out how to save aggressively during the 1 decade of your life when the math literally doesn't work. Now, does that mean your 20s don't matter? No. And this is the cruel irony. Every dollar you invest at 25 is worth roughly $5 to $6 at 65, assuming average market returns. The decade where saving is hardest is also the decade where every dollar matters most. Which is, to be clear, exactly as unfair as it sounds. Here's where it gets interesting. Your 30s are supposed to be the catch-up decade. Income jumps. The 35 to 44 age group earns about $78,000 pre-tax, according to BLS data. That's nearly triple what you made at 22, so the money's finally coming in. Problem is, so are the bills. Housing costs peak for the 35 to 44 group at over $20,000 a year. Transportation spending hits nearly $11,000. You're buying a house, or trying to. You've got kids, or you're paying for childcare, or both. This is the decade where the gap between the benchmark and reality rips wide open. Fidelity says 3 times your salary by 40. For a household earning $78,000, that's $234,000 saved. The actual median net worth for this age group? About $135,000. That's a $100,000 gap, and most of that gap isn't from bad decisions. It's from housing. The single biggest wealth-building tool in America, homeownership, is also the single biggest cash drain during the years you're supposed to be stacking investments. Nobody puts that in the benchmark chart. Now here's the part that actually gives me some hope. Your 40s and 50s are where the math finally starts cooperating, if you don't sabotage it. Income for the 45 to 54 group is about 79,000, basically flat from your late 30s. But here's what changes. Your biggest expenses start to plateau or drop. The kids get older. Maybe the mortgage is closer to paid off. And something subtle happens with spending habits. BLS data shows that the share of food spending that goes to eating at home rises steadily with age. Under 25, it's 55% at home. By your 50s, it's climbing past 60%. That's not just a food stat, it's a proxy for lifestyle stabilization. You stop bleeding money on convenience and start keeping more of what you earn. The median net worth for 45 to 54 is around $247,000. For 55 to 64, it jumps to about $364,000. That's over $100,000 of net worth growth in a single decade, more than most people accumulated in their entire 20s and 30s combined. Compounding finally becomes visible, which is great news when it's working for you and deeply frustrating if you're just now starting. So here's the thing I want you to sit with for a second. Those benchmark charts, 1 times salary by 30, 3 times by 40, they weren't designed to help you plan. They were designed to make you feel behind. Because when you feel behind, you take action. You open an account, you click the ad, you hire the advisor. That's not a conspiracy theory, that's a business model. Fidelity, Schwab, Vanguard. They're great companies, but they're also companies that make money when you move money. The benchmarks aren't wrong in the sense that they describe a mathematically sound retirement path. They're wrong in the sense that they describe almost nobody's actual life. And when you compare your real number to an impossible benchmark, you don't get motivated. You get paralyzed. The more useful question isn't, am I hitting the benchmark? It's, am I closing the gap faster than I was last year? That's it. That's the only question that actually matters. All right, so if the benchmarks are mostly marketing, what actually moves the needle? 3 things, and they're all boring, which is how you know they work. Number 1, your savings rate matters more than your salary. A household earning $60,000 that saves 20% will outpace a household earning $100,000 that saves 5% every single time. The BLS data shows that higher income age groups also have higher expenses. Earning more doesn't automatically mean keeping more. You have to decide to keep more. Number 2, close the housing efficiency gap. Housing is the single largest expense for every age group from 25 to 64. If you're spending more than 28 to 30% of gross income on housing, every other financial goal gets harder. Not impossible, harder. And that compounds over decades. Number 3, automate the gap closing. Set your retirement contribution to increase by 1% every year. Most people set it once, usually at whatever their employer defaults them to, which is often 3%, because apparently that's what a comfortable retirement looks like, and never touch it again. 1% per year. You won't feel it. But in 10 years, that's the difference between retiring at 65 and retiring at 72. These aren't exciting moves. They're not going to go viral. But they're the actual decisions that separate the median from the benchmark. Look, if you watch this and your number is below the median, that doesn't mean you failed. It means you're normal. And normal is a starting point, not a life sentence. The gap between where you are and where you want to be close one decision at a time. Not one viral stock pick. Not one side hustle. One boring, automated, slightly annoying decision at a time. If this gave you a clearer picture of where you actually stand, hit subscribe. I make videos like this every week, real numbers, no hype, no judgment, just the stuff I wish someone had shown me 10 years ago.